John Tod was picked up in the Orkney Islands and came into the country in Canada. He served as Hudson's Bay Company trader in various posts as a deputy post chief. And at about the age of 23 or 24, he very nearly quit the Hudson's Bay Company because he thought he would not be able to advance to become a chief trader. But the Hudson's Bay Company decided that yes, he would make a chief trader, and so they put him in a number of small posts. And at the time, Kamloops was a small Hudson's Bay Company post, and so for quite a few years, a couple of decades, basically John Tod was the only white person in what is today Kamloops. John Tod was among the very first of the Hudson's Bay Company traders who began in his last few years in Kamloops to take gold and flakes of gold from Indians as a trade, exchange of trade during the final end of the fur trade. And John Tod began the process, which is strictly against Hudson's Bay Company rules, of taking gold in exchange for trade goods. He was a rebel, but he knew the price of gold. He also knew at the time, and it's clear because his journals are still in the archives in Victoria. It's clear that he either knew or had an inkling that by the 1850s, when he retired, the fur trade was coming to an end. Quite simply, anything valuable had already been trapped. The whole essence of the fur trade was to trap areas out. Kamloops was actually trapped out by the 1840s, so he was probably the last of any fur traders in the local area to actually trade any furs. And by the time he began accepting gold, there were no furs, or very few furs coming into Kamloops, or the Fort Kamloops as it was called. In 1846, when the Hudson's Bay Company gave up the Oregon and Washington territories, soon thereafter, John Tod moved up one step in the Hudson's Bay Company hierarchy and worked as the trader in Victoria, which was about as high as one could get on the west coast in the Hudson's Bay Company. He retired and died in Victoria after a fairly long retirement, and you can still see his grave in the Oak Bay Cemetery in Victoria. There are a number of local landmarks that are either named after John Tod, Tod Mountain in particular, or that have been named by John Tod. It's Peter and Paul are names that we put on the map, as are probably around 110 or 120 other place names in the local area that are the result of John Tod.